Why do I feel like I linger? Linger between the words to say the words to remember.
Hey guys, another video. Today I'll be doing, as you've seen in the video in the thumbnail, Nomi II from the most recent Baki the Grappler manga book, whatever you want to call it. And he'll be facing off against one of the earliest tournaments of, any kind of fighting and martial arts massive tournament that, Baki had, even before the most recent in the anime release, the Raitai tournament. We're going to be going all the way back to 2001 with the release of the original Baki the Grappler anime, and that would be Nomi Sukune the second versus the Maximum tournament. But, without further ado, let's just hop right in. Alright, so you guys are seeing on screen right now the bracket for the Maximum tournament. Each of the characters, a picture of them, their name in Japanese and English, if they do have a Japanese, name on the screen. In any case, this is everybody that participated in the original, Maximum tournament, when everybody got together from all different kinds of styles, like karate, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, any style was allowed to enter, and it was like a no rules other than no weapons allowed kind of fight. Basically what, the Baki the Grappler series and even the Kengan series is famous for, these kinds of, everything is allowed except for, the use of weapons or, outside items. This was, one of the original tournaments in anime and manga that did that. And we're going to be seeing how well Nomi does against the fighters in this specific tournament. Now, in a bit of a twist, as, you'd expect somebody like, the main character of the entire series to maybe have to go up against Nomi last, but we're actually just going to go by the tournament brackets, as we see them on screen. So, in the top left-hand corner, the very first person that will combat Nomi Sukune II will be none other than the main character of the entire show, the titular Baki Hanma. Now, we'll be using a champion Baki. We'll basically be using the Baki that won the Maximum tournament. We'll be using everybody at their best just to give them a fair chance because, technically speaking, Nomi Sukune II should be, head over heels the strongest and fastest person in this tournament. He was able to go toe-to-toe with people like, the most recent iteration of Baki. Baki after fighting people like Yujiro, in a fairly even playing field and, going toe-to-toe with the legendary Miyamoto Musashi. This guy should be head over heels stronger than everyone in the tournament. So, we'll be giving everyone in the Maximum tournament every possible advantage. And in that, we'll be giving Baki, his full kit at this point, so to speak. Every technique he learned throughout the tournament, every, boost and power-up he got, namely, of course, his demon back that we see in his final fight against his brother Jack. But yeah, basically to, dumb this down to its basest form, we're going to be seeing demon back come out really soon. Nomi is, in essence, millions of times closer to Yujiro in strength than Baki at this point is. Now, of course, we see in the actual manga that Baki is stronger than Nomi, but that's Baki after, quite a bit of time of intense training, fighting and overcoming lots of people. They're basically entirely different people. So, going through a list of techniques that Baki would have up to this point, let's look at each one and talk about how they'd be useful to him, and let's see how Nomi would respond. He has the techniques like endorphins. Endorphins would be great because they basically, make it so that Baki can take more damage. Whenever he gets hurt, instead of, feeling pain, he gets a good feeling. It would allow him to tank a lot more damage. He'd just be able to power through everything. But the problem with endorphins is it's not really going to help. Yes, he won't be feeling as much pain and he'll be able to, carry on, but that doesn't really account for much when Nomi's practically strong enough to destroy Baki in one hit. The strength difference is so vast. This is like, just imagine the fight between Yujiro and Baki when he was a kid. It's essentially going to be a redo of that. So sure, it's great that you don't feel any pain from the attacks, but that's not going to stop from the fact that they're practically going to kill you in one hit. Next we have the Death Concentration ability. This is not one seen very often in the series, but essentially what this does is it allows people to, go into that fight or flight, near-death experience kind of situation where your reflexes are highly boosted and you're basically able to see things happening in slow motion. Now, Baki can activate this near-death experience ability at practically any time to give himself a reflexive boost and to be able to, counter and react a lot faster. Again, it's not going to do much because he'd basically be trying to, with this near-death, concentration ability, he'd be trying to outspeed somebody like Yujiro. Again, that not only applies in strength, but also in speed. Nomi is a lot closer to Yujiro in speed than Baki is at this point. So, he may be able to see in slow motion, but the sheer fact of the matter is no matter how slowly he can see or how quickly he can react, he's still not going to be able to move his body fast enough to do anything. We have a couple of techniques that'll basically amount to nothing here. We have the Ippon Ken, which is basically a fighter, using like a single knuckle to strike a specific part of the body. Baki could use that for pressure points, and that could end up being detrimental, but it's not something he very often does. As a matter of fact, I think he only used Ippon Ken once against Hanayama while he was a kid. So while that could possibly be viable, it's a lot more likely that Baki wouldn't go for this and would get taken out long before that idea crosses his mind. Then we have the rear naked choke that we've seen him use this against, Yujiro Hanma in the famous scene from when Baki as a kid had his final confrontation with Yujiro. He again used it in the Maximum tournament. He got flashbacks to Yujiro, which is kind of hilarious considering Yujiro pretty much single-handedly ended Vietnam. But the rear naked choke isn't going to do anything to Nomi. He has a grip strength of 100,000 atmospheres. The guy could literally just grab Baki's arms and crush them. Or, as we've seen him lift Baki with the Triceratops fist, which, the Triceratops, illusion he creates or whatever is like 10 tons or something, or like something crazy like that. If he can lift that amount, then there's no way that this Baki would be able to maintain a grip around his neck without Nomi just prying his arm off and throwing him or smashing him one. Then we have, one of Baki's, more signature moves. It's not his signature move, but, according to Retsu at least, it's one that meshes very well with his natural stance, and that would be the roll kick. Now, this would be actually a pretty good move, but it still won't do anything. See, the problem is we see that Baki is able to use his instincts, his instinctive reaction, to basically start spinning and rolling at the exact moment he's hit. That way, he can completely negate any damage he takes from the hit and cross-counter at the same time by rolling forward and kicking the person. Well, if Kid Baki can do it to Yujiro, then that certainly means that a stronger Baki will be able to do it to a not as strong opponent as, per se, Yujiro. The problem lies in the hit. He's going to land the kick because he's going to negate whatever Nomi's trying to do to him. If he's trying to do a Hard or a punch or a kick, the roll is going to negate the damage. But when the kick lands, Nomi's literally going to have taken no damage. He can take the kick straight to the face or the chin or anything and be completely fine. So there's really nothing there. Bow and arrow, the wrestling technique he used against Suido in the karate tournament, that pretty much has the same problem as the rear naked choke. Nothing would stop Nomi from just, curling inward because Baki's not strong enough to maintain that hold. The Seiken punch, it's basically, a karate punch. There's nothing really special about it, except, it's more efficient than a normal punch. Baki's definitely not strong enough to do any damage with that. Another one of Baki's signatures is the arm lock. Again, we're not going to see a lot of, success or, effectiveness from this move because, Nomi's basically got two routes. He can either, just pull his arm away from Baki, because Baki, again, would not have the strength to maintain that hold, or to lean back and break Nomi's arm because Nomi would, be way stronger. He'd just yank his arm out before Baki could do anything. Or hell, he could even probably go the Yujiro route where he punches through the ground and smashes Baki and basically destroys his entire torso in one hit. The Kinteki Giri, also known as the crotch kick, is probably one of Baki's best chances at taking a win. Similarly to what we see against Zulu, it's probably Baki's best chance of winning, just because, as you can imagine, being kicked in the testicles is pretty, it hurts. It doesn't really matter how strong you are, getting kicked in the balls hurts. So, that may be a viable option for Baki, but considering how fast Nomi is, not only would it be difficult for him to land without getting hit first and demolished, but we've seen that Nomi has a history of, I guess you could say, taking things head on. We see with Nomi's fight against Oliva tries to punch him in the face, he headbutts Oliva's fist and destroys it. So, while it may be a bit impractical in this instance, who's to say that Nomi wouldn't headbutt Baki's leg and shatter it, it completely destroy it. Now he can't use his leg. He's even worse off than he was before. If he could land the kick, then, superb. He might actually be able to take Nomi down. But we don't know for sure that he can. It's very likely he wouldn't due to the massive speed difference. So, probably not a viable way of taking the win either. Though I will say it's his best shot. It's not entirely impossible, but because of the speed gap, it's really not. It's not even worth talking about because a saying in my life has been brought up time and time again recently within this last half year or whatever. I don't know when it started. It's not really important, but it definitely applies to this instance in that, close only counts with horseshoes and hand grenades. And basically what that means is, you get points in, tossing horseshoes, the game where you have, the pike in the ground, and you're attempting to loop the horseshoe around the pike. You get points depending on how close to the pike you are with the horseshoe. And, of course, hand grenades, it blows up, so you don't have to have pinpoint accuracy. But, yeah, close for Baki being able to take out Nomi with a Kinteki Giri, a crotch kick. It doesn't matter, because even if it's a close thing, Nomi's still too fast, so it'll never happen. Just to look at another couple of grappling techniques we've seen Baki use, the suplex wouldn't work because I'm not sure Baki would be able to lift 200 kilos, which is the weight for Nomi. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of people believe Nomi to be 250 kilos, but that was actually an error in the translation. I don't know if he's able to suplex somebody who weighs 200 kilos, but even if he could, Nomi could easily break out of the suplex and hurt Baki very badly. Same applies to the new Cobra. It's Baki's original twist on the Cobra Twist wrestling technique. And, same applies to the single leg figure 4, Baki's original improvement of the figure 4 leg lock, and the new swastika, which is Baki's improvement of the swastika stretch. All these wrestling moves, they're very effective, on somebody who is, Baki even uses them on somebody bigger than himself. I was going to say on somebody smaller than yourself or about the same size, but Baki's shown that these amazing wrestling techniques that he's created and improved upon, they can even be used on someone bigger than yourself, and even against someone like, Kanji Igari, one of the greatest wrestlers in all of Baki. But it still doesn't compensate for the strength difference. The strength difference is so unrealistically massive. If you were to tell me that Baki at this point in the manga could defeat Nomi Sukune II, I'd tell you you're crazy. That's like saying that Baki could literally beat somebody stronger than Oliva, who can at least go toe-to-toe with Yujiro without dying. That's nuts. Not even that much prior to this event, we saw Kid Baki fight Yujiro, and we saw how that went. Baki could not hurt him no matter how many times he kicked or hit him, and Yujiro basically defeated him in one hit. It was nothing. He was like a speck. Baki was a minor inconvenience at his best, and that's basically what he would be here in terms of strength. The Enzigiri, if Baki was near Nomi's level of strength, would be a great move to use. It's a wrestling kick. the medulla slash. If you kick the medulla, I don't remember, off the top of my head, but I do believe that if you were to, slash the medulla, as the name would suggest, then that would basically cause you to die. Like, your heart would stop beating, if I remember correctly. Again, I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but I do know something very lethal happens if you were to slash the medulla oblongata. But again, Baki could sit there and, kick Nomi's medulla all day, and he'd never be able to do enough damage to the muscle tissue to actually sever his medulla. The backdrop suffers the same problem that the suplex would suffer, in that, Baki probably can't lift up somebody that's 200 kilos, and Nomi could just crush him in the process. Do a Shikoshi, the sumo stomp, and literally just, like, accordion Baki. The Antonio driver is not going to work because Baki wouldn't be able to do anything in a grapple against Nomi Sukune II, which is kind of ironic. Baki the grappler literally can do nothing in an instance of grappling. The Spinning Lotus, which is that move that Baki used against Retsu and Jack, it was actually Retsu's original Chinese move. That could do something in theory, but again, I don't think that Baki is strong enough to be able to spin Nomi's neck around like that. I suppose at that point it would really all depend on, like, what Itagaki would want to do if he did this fight. But the way I'm looking at it, no, Baki is not strong enough to break Nomi's neck. He's not even strong enough to lift him, as far as I'm concerned. Two moves that Baki used against Jack in the final fight of the tournament, the soccer ball kick and the Shining Wizard. While I think, Baki may be able to land the Shining Wizard, I don't think, even if they landed, the Shining Wizard or the soccer ball kick would do anything to Nomi. The cord cut technique is actually very interesting. I do believe that if Baki were to play his cards right, and if he were to catch Nomi in a similar instance of the Kinteki Giri, if Nomi wasn't so much faster, I think Baki could actually, do some serious damage. He could blind him, he could, disable an arm or a leg. He could make the fight at the very least doable. If the guy can't use his left arm or his left leg or whatever, then maybe getting him into a grapple would be a lot easier. Breaking that useless arm would be easier, and he would still feel the pain of the broken arm. It's just that he can't do anything to stop it, because he can't use the muscles in that arm. There's something he could do there with the cord cutting technique, but he's just not fast enough. Nomi is fast enough to keep up with a Baki who was, comparable at least to Yujiro. The dude dodges lightning bolts. The dude can, blitz people from, like, hundreds of feet away. Like, it's no contest. The dude is so much faster than Baki at this point. I think in Baki at this time, they were bullet timers. Like, that's pretty much nothing compared to 2018 Baki. The Mach punch, it's a fast punch. It's a hard punch, as we see when Katsumi uses a barrage of them to take down Hanayama. It's a great move, but not fast enough, not strong enough. He might as well just be using basic punches, because the speed difference and the strength difference between that and his normal attacks, not enough to do anything to Nomi Sukune II. Again, the arm breaker and the move that Baki used to defeat his older brother Jack Hanma, the front neck lock. Again, Nomi has such a powerful grip and such a strength in the way of, like, lifting and prying and all these different things. Baki's grapples would do nothing. And finally, possibly Baki's only saving grace here from basically being utterly annihilated in one hit, the Demon Back. If he could unlock the Demon Back to its fullest extent, while I don't think Baki at this stage, before him and Kozue went and did the nasty, I'm not sure that even with the Demon Back at this point, Baki would be able to, make himself strong enough to actually stand toe-to-toe with Nomi Sukune. I don't even think he'd be strong enough to stand toe-to-toe with Oliva without, becoming a man, quote-unquote, as they put it. But, yeah, it looks like, whether it be due to strength, which is the majority of these things, or due to speed, which, you know, one or two of these is a big issue with the speed, Baki literally has no legitimate way to defeat Nomi II. So I guess Nomi II will be moving on in the tournament that that Baki already won. So I'll be real with you guys. We just did the champion of the tournament versus Nomi Sukune II, and it was a stomp, an absolute wash. Baki basically has no way of winning. And basically what that means is, as you've probably been able to figure out, if the champion of the tournament can't win against this guy, then nobody can, right? Well, there is one person that stands a chance against him, even if the champion lost. And that man is Goki Shibukawa. Now, Doppo was a bit of an interesting case because, as is the case with actually quite a few of the fighters within the Maximum tournament, Doppo was a lot stronger than Shibukawa. He's just a small, frail old man. But he did have one thing that he basically used to almost sweep the tournament, and that is his Aiki. As we would see later on in the new grappler Baki, Prison Death Row Inmates arc, Shibukawa's Aiki is actually strong enough to even dominate someone as powerful as all of a biscuit. Again, we see in Baki-Do, it works just fine on Nomi. Nomi's practically unable to resist it in any way. Now, we do see it resisted by Kyoge, but that's a story for another time. In essence, what I'm getting at here is Shibukawa's Aiki should be able to, in theory, actually overcome and dominate Nomi Sukune's raw strength. The only reason Doppo was able to, even hold a candle to Shibukawa is because he had the technique, the Bodhisattva Fist, that allowed him to silence his mind. See, Aiki only works if the person can read your intentions, predict what you're doing beforehand, that way they can blend their force with your force and return it back at you. If the person can't predict what you're going to do, then he can't use Aiki. We see that, of course, as my example just now with the Bodhisattva Fist, when Doppo silences his mind. We also see that again when Shibukawa fights Musashi. Musashi was so fast that even with prediction, Shibukawa couldn't blend his force and be able to do anything. He even says himself something along the lines of, to say I couldn't even see you draw your sword would be, disingenuous or something like that. And basically seeing, not only did you completely blitz my reactions, you completely blitzed my predictions. So that was his issue with Doppo. Now, as far as Jack, of course, the issue there was, well, Jack was a bit of a monster. Jack was able to do Aiki, he was able to copy it and counter it. His signature technique, which was biting, is the antithesis of Aiki. So Jack he was stacked in every way. Now, if you wanted to say that Baki or Jack could use Aiki to defeat Nomi, then, okay, I would give you that. It's not really in character for them or on brand for them to use Aiki that much, but they have used it before in sticky situations, so I'd give it to you. Except for one thing. See, we know that Aiki has a couple of weaknesses, a couple of things that can counteract it or, get around its abilities, and one of those things is charging attacks. And funnily enough, as a sumo wrestler, Nomi II is actually quite fond of charging attack. See, he gets into something called the Shikiri stance. That's the stance where he gets down low, knuckles on the ground, and he launches himself forward, and he tackles the opponent, and he grabs them around the waist, and does whatever he's about to do. And time again, we see that Shibukawa does not have an answer in Aiki to charge attacks. Every time we've seen him have to counter a charge attack, he relies on his trip technique. In essence, all he does is gets down as low as he can to basically make himself like a tripwire across someone's ankle. They can't bring their lead foot forward, so they trip forward, and basically with their charge attack, they've brought themselves forward with all that momentum. Now they can't move their lead foot, so the only way they're going is down. They trip. And we've even seen in some instances, like with Shibukawa versus Yanagi, he'll just straight up, grab you by the face and smash you into the ground while you're tripping. So that could present an issue, with Shibukawa versus Nomi. That could present an issue with, with Nomi trying to beat him. He gets tripped every time he uses the Shikiri stance. Every time he tries to hit the guy or do anything like that, then he gets his attack flung back at him, or he gets thrown halfway across the arena. And Shibukawa's pretty much always been as fast as he is. He's pretty much always been at the peak of his speed, being able to, react, at least in some manner, to, some of the higher end characters, even now in 2018, Bakido. So speed shouldn't be an issue. He has Aiki to counter strength. He has his backup against people who use charge attacks. If you wanted to say, in theory, that Shibukawa could actually defeat Nomi no Sukune, I wouldn't say you're wrong. I'd say you've got a strong argument. It's got some strong points, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I do think that Nomi no Sukune II could still win. I'd say the difficulty range is about 40-50. Shibukawa could win with 40% difficulty, or Nomi could win with 50% difficulty. But regardless of how you look at it, it's very close to even. It's either 40-60 or 50-50, right? It's a bit difficult because this is what Shibukawa does. We know he has, the skill in Aiki to be able to counter people of this level of strength. We've seen him do it before. We know he has the speed to be able to go toe-to-toe with Nomi, at least in some respect. But we can't forget that Nomi is so much stronger than Shibukawa that it isn't entirely impossible for Nomi II to be able to possibly even overcome Aiki. See, the baseline we have is that Aiki was able to casually dominate the full strength of Oliva, or at least, Oliva's strength. We don't know if he was going all out or trying his damnedest, but he was definitely getting manhandled, and he looked like a little baby, and we know that Oliva doesn't like to lose. He had that whole monologue with Che Guevara, how they were both grown men and they had left behind toys and being whiny kids, but the one thing they never left behind was their desire to win every fight. We know he doesn't like losing. So for him to just allow Shibukawa to kind of toy with him like that does seem a bit off-brand. But that's the thing. We've seen Aiki completely dominate Oliva. But we've also seen Nomi completely dominate Oliva. Nomi essentially beat him in 2 or 3 moves. So that does bring into question whether or not Nomi II is strong enough to overcome Aiki. If you ask me, I honestly wouldn't know what to tell you. That's why I'm saying it's either 40-60, Shibukawa wins, or 50-50, As of right now, we don't have enough facts as to the full capacity of either of them. We know that Aiki's limit is Kyoge's strength, but we don't know how Kyoge compares to Nomi. We just know that both Aiki and Nomi II are a fair bit stronger than Oliva. So if you want to say that Nomi sweeps the tournament, hey, he definitely kicks Baki's ass, so I'm with you there. If you want to say he also beats Shibukawa, I can get to that. I can vibe to that beat. But if you wanted to say that Nomi wouldn't be able to win the tournament, specifically because Shibukawa would stop him, some point early on, let's say we swap him out with Roger Harlan. If we swap Nomi out any later than the semifinals, then he wins. But if we put him in, where Roger Harlan was, or where Dopo was, if we swap him out with one of those, then the tournament will go the same. Shibukawa will go against Jack. Jack has every advantage because he learns Aiki almost instantly. He knows how to counter it, and he has a signature technique that is the antithesis of the entire style. So he would beat Shibukawa, he would go on to fight Baki, who would win his way through his bracket, and Baki would beat Jack, and Baki would be the winner of the tournament still. But if we put Nomi in at any point in which Shibukawa has lost, we put Nomi in, if we swap Nomi in for Jack in the final round, or if we swap Nomi into any fight except against Shibukawa, Nomi would win. But Shibukawa is pretty much the gate blocker. If we swap Nomi in for anybody on Baki's side, Nomi wins the tournament, because Jack versus Nomi is a wash. Nomi would destroy Jack. But if he's on Shibukawa's side, no matter where we put him, he's going to end up having to fight Shibukawa, and he's going to lose. Now, that is to say, if you subscribe to the fact that Shibukawa's Aiki is stronger than Nomi. It's anyone's guess at that point, at that side. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much an even fight between the two, but he definitely does defeat the champion. And that's going to do it for this little what if today. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, like the video if you liked it. Comment what you want to see next. Any kind of content is fine. I have a wide range of stuff I like, and I've been really getting into these what if things. I feel like I've found my niche. I really do enjoy like what if scenarios and stuff like that. So that could be one of the things that I mainly focus on with this channel. Subscribe if you want to be notified of upcoming videos, like any other, you know, what if scenarios from any other shows or characters, or, you know, whatever have you. And ring that notification bell if you want to basically have the videos pop up, you know, when they come out, because, you know, with YouTube not adding all videos into a subscription box and all that nonsense. So yeah, if you're enjoying the content I'm putting out, I'd love to have you on the channel as part of the community. Tell me, guys, if you like the video, and I guess I'll see you with the next one. Peace.
Up,